We still have a few announcements to make. So now our co-organizers, Razvan and Viorica, will make an announcement about the EEML projects that were initiated at the summer school a few weeks ago and continued up until recently. So they're going to talk about that, make a few announcements, and also make announcement about the future plans from EEML. And once the announcements are done, we're going to transition to a panel discussion with Dovydas, Viorica, and Razvan, and I will be a moderator. It's going to be a brief panel discussion on also kind of the future plans and how Lithuania could get more involved in the international AI community. So passing on to Razvan, I believe.
Cool. Thank you. So this year at EEML, we've tried something new. So we tried sort of having this project that would be continued until the workshop. And the motivation for this is because we believe that the most that participants can gain from events like this is building their network. So this is probably way more important than just listening to lectures and sort of connecting to the speakers. Sort of this kind of networking that you could do, this is sort of what will help propel you in the field and sort of give you the ability to do the kind of research you'd like to do. So to have this happening, we wanted to get students to work together. So if we can go to the next slide. So the idea was quite simple. Is to allow participants to self-organize into teams that had at least 4 participants, with the intent for these participants to be from different institutions, because the whole goal was to try to get sort of people to communicate. And yeah, if they would be from institutions from different countries, that was even better, because that's usually, it seems to be a barrier, particularly in Eastern Europe, seems to be a barrier of people communicating between sort of neighboring countries. And then each team would brainstorm on a project that can be done in the time frame that we had, which was roughly 14 days, and then would present this plan during the school. And we had the 6 such projects presented, and then they would try to work on their proposed project until the workshop, and submit a small report on sort of what they've managed to do and sort of explaining the project further. And based on that, we would like look at them and would figure out what the winning projects are. And we've done that yesterday and today. And I guess I'll leave it to Viorica to say sort of what the outcome of this was.
Okay. Thank you, Razvan. So yeah, I'm very pleased to announce the projects first, just to list the projects that we've received. So we've had initially 7 teams at the school, and 5 of these teams committed to work on the projects until now, until the workshop, and submit reports summarizing their work. So we have to say that we were really impressed with the amount of work and effort that you managed to put into this short amount of time. So we are very pleased with the outcome of this experiment. As Razvan said, we tried this this year. And we hope that people will feel motivated to seek this kind of collaborations in the future. So we will surely repeat this kind of program at the next year's edition. So just to list the projects that we've received. So we had 1 project on continual learning, 1 project on cross-lingual Eastern European natural language processing index, 1 project on creating a tutorial for next year's edition at EEML on explainable deep learning, 1 project on applying generative models for generating medical data, and last but not least, a project on self-supervised sample efficient reinforcement learning. So yes, as Razvan mentioned, we've went through the reports, and we tried to evaluate them based on their potential impact, based on how much effort we could assess that went into the project, and also based on what we think could be the outcome from a research perspective, and also, as I said, a social impact perspective. And yeah, we are very pleased to announce, let's say, the winners. And so these are the winners in terms of prizes. I'll just explain very quickly what these are. So like the winner, the first winner, we consider to be this cross-lingual Eastern European NLP index. And for the authors of this project, they will receive admission to next year's edition without selection, plus mentorship if they continue to work on this project. And this is at least what they said in their report, that they will continue. So this is actually an impressive project. They've managed to put together in these 2 weeks a ton of resources, and these are all now available on GitHub, where they listed existing data sets in Eastern European languages. They've listed large BERT models that exist for different languages, and they even created some baselines for a few of NLP tasks. And all of these resources are now available online. We will surely tweet from our EEML account, because this is a very valuable resource for the community. Next, the second prize goes to the explainable deep learning tutorial, which needs a bit of cleanup, but we are very pleased with the shape in which it is now. So there's a lot of good content there. There's a strong start. So the authors of this project receive a conditional admission to next year's edition without selection. So conditional means that the authors need to clean up the material and to bring this to a final tutorial. And we commit to provide advice to bring this to the final form. This tutorial, it will depend if we will actually run this as a tutorial at next year's edition. It will depend on the program that we'll have for next year that we don't know yet. But we will surely at least recommend to the participants to go through this tutorial before the school, because it has a lot of good content in it already. And for the remaining 3 projects, we, the organizers, pledge to offer mentorship for these 3 projects to work towards a paper, because we saw very interesting ideas, research ideas there, hypotheses and plans to work towards a paper. So if the authors of these 3 projects are interested in pursuing these directions, we will seek mentorship for you to help you to work towards a paper and submit to a top machine learning conference. So again, thank you so much to all who got involved. We are extremely pleased. As I said, we are extremely happy with how this turned out. And yeah, thank you so much for getting involved. And yeah, we hope that you enjoyed it. You enjoyed working on this, and that you created interesting connections while working on the project. So I think this is all for the awards.
Excellent. Do you have any more announcements to make in regarding to the summer school, or are we proceeding then to the panel?
I think we can go to the panel.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so hopefully everyone is ready and excited for the awesome panel we have. And it's going to be the 4 of us, Dovydas, Viorica, and Razvan, and I'm going to be the moderator. So I guess the first question would be to both Viorica and Razvan to tell a bit more of a backstory, how you started with EEML, and how you worked with different countries, with different communities, kind of to try and create larger representation of Eastern European countries at conferences like NeurIPS, ICLR, ICML, etc. Because if you go to these conferences, they're quite large and mostly Western countries dominated. So it's quite interesting to see like what your experience has been so far and what is your strategy going forward. Either of you?
Okay, maybe I'll just start very briefly. So the discussions around EML, like starting EML, started back in even 2016, I guess, the end of 2016. When we were at a big conference, I think it was NeurIPS in Barcelona, and we were discussing with researchers from Romania about the fact that there are not enough experts in Romania to develop machine learning projects and to do research in Romania. So, and we kind of pinpointed this to the lack of good educational programs in Romania, like master's programs that do AI and machine learning. And we said, okay, maybe there is a way for us to set up such programs and to facilitate access to education for students in the region. And that's kind of how we thought that, okay, setting up a master program is a very big thing, a very difficult thing to do. So we said, okay, probably a first step, doable step, is to create a summer school and then to gauge interest, to get an understanding of the interest from the universities and the local companies and just the community overall, and then to see how we can move forward. So that was kind of the starting point. And we were really surprised and pleasantly impressed that we received so much support from the local communities and interest from the students and the universities and companies. And that's how, yeah, we've decided to set up this program. So Razvan, maybe you can also share your thoughts.
So maybe I guess besides the discussions we had at NeurIPS in 2016, I remember another component that really convinced me to go for this was I got invited to go back to Romania to give a talk. It was one of this kind of machine learning meetup. And like one thing that surprised me was sort of the expertise that people had there, right? So there were lots of students. They were up to date with the latest techniques and everything, and they were playing with all kinds of cool models. But like you know, they probably didn't have like you could tell that they didn't have the same visibility, and they didn't have sort of the connection with the Western world, like you know, and even like the way they were asking questions, right? They were kind of scared and just kind of going forward and asking questions. So we thought that that was something that convinced me that like an event like this would help quite a bit. First of all, just for them to see sort of that they're already at a really high level, which maybe is something that they didn't know themselves. And then just sort of to help them connect them with sort of the rest of the community. And I guess this is also partially why we didn't go for like an event that's specific to Romania, because we feel like sort of this kind of connectivity and, you know, trying to make this kind of network and communicating, it's extremely important. And if you'd have an event that would be just for Romanians in Romania, that would actually not help at all. Like you'd actually want quite an international event, and try to connect, you know, as many people as you can from different communities, and try to get these communities to speak between them, because there's a lot of there's a lot to be gained from having this. So and then that's sort of how we kind of settled on this idea of having like a summer school meant for the Eastern European community. We started in Romania because, as I think we've mentioned this before, it was easy for us. We knew the local context, but with the explicit aim to kind of just move around from country to country and to get to know as many communities as we can and try to connect them. And we've managed to do that to a certain extent, right? We've managed to get to Poland, we've managed to get to Hungary, and we've managed to get now to Lithuania and to Ukraine and other places through the workshops we did.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Very interesting. My next kind of question would be now to Dovydas, who is the co-organizer of the event, but is also a president of Lithuanian AI Association, which has multiple people joining it, multiple representatives from both industry and academia. So maybe Dovydas, you could share the same kind of idea and story that was behind creating the Lithuanian AI Association, and what has been the path so far, and what is the path forward, and what are the challenges? Muted.
So thanks, Jeff. So the Artificial Intelligence Association of Lithuania is like our attempt to get all of the industry experts and also a lot of people from the academia to have like this joint forum and joint like maybe group of experts, so we can share knowledge, like what works, what we can do, and how to represent what we are actually doing in machine learning and artificial intelligence, so that the like groups that are interested in these topics, so that they can have maybe I don't want to say an unbiased picture, but like as unbiased as it's actually possible, so that we can understand that this AI is not it's not the artificial general intelligence. First of all, that's a pretty recurring topic. It's not something that has to be thought about in the future. It's like a thing which, like all of us do today. It's a thing that requires help from various other stakeholders, the government, the industry, the academia also, which needs to be understood. And these experts and these industry and academia experts, they are bringing quite a bit of value to Lithuania, and if the country would help them back, or I guess will enable them, it will like these efforts will be like they'll worth their while. So in short, we just want to have this like representative community, and also like knowledge sharing with the knowledge sharing mechanism amongst the members also.
So in both cases, it seems that the emphasis has been on building the community first, then building the networks for these communities, ability to interact in between for the people within the communities, and also solve the challenges that the members within the communities might have. And also, I guess in some cases, also educate those who might not be members of the community yet, or might be thinking of becoming members of these machine learning communities. And I guess the good question here was that I believe you mentioned, Viorica, that in Romania, before you were considering even starting a master's program. So was that successful or was it not? Like, how did you approach that?
So we've discussed with a few local universities about this, and we've discovered that actually there were masters that do artificial intelligence, but some of them doing a bit more traditional artificial intelligence, not focused on machine learning. So basically, we just try to support the local programs and get involved as much as we could in different ways. And for example, in Timișoara, we contributed and helped launching a master's program. So we organized a similar machine learning workshop there in Timișoara in Romania around the time when they were launching the master. So we've announced this launch at the workshop. We've also collaborated this year exactly with a professor in Bucharest, and we've invited lectures at their master's program. So they have a master's on artificial intelligence and computer vision, and myself, Răzvan, and another colleague from DeepMind, we went as invited speakers at the master's. So we've tried to get involved as much as we could in existing programs or in setting up new programs. And providing feedback on their curriculum that they're setting up for the masters. So I think we are seeing good signs. Like the community is really building up, and we are really impressed that all these efforts, they also have a backup from the industry side, which I think is really important to have the companies also involved in this.
Okay. Excellent, thank you. So as far as I'm aware, in Lithuania, we already have quite a few kind of master's programs and different other academic programs. But maybe, Dovydas, you could mention what are the challenges Lithuanian AI community is currently facing, either from industry or academia point of view?
Yeah, it's not an easy question. There are, layers and layers of challenges, and I guess I need to make on the spot, make a very good ranking of which of these problems are important. So, by the way, if I'm not mentioning them, they are still very important. I just have to pick the most important ones. Personally, I feel that what brings publicity and success and maybe interest in the machine learning and AI are currently startups. And we have like even as association members, we have a few startups which are doing pretty amazing things, and like people are getting excited, like, hey, I can now help people using deep learning. I can understand the X-ray scans, and I can detect the cancer, and I can detect other diseases with much higher precision than it was previously possible. And I don't really need to get a medical degree to help people. I can still be an engineer. I can still work with computer vision, and I can still feel like have this impact on like not only my local community, not only the people in my current hospital, but I can have this algorithm deployed worldwide if it's the best algorithm. And like I think that these startups and helping the startup community to really apply this already super powerful algorithms which are already developed, but we are not not enough products have yet been built. Leveraging these amazing achievements in the like, especially I'm like maybe focusing too much on deep learning because it's just provided such a wide like spectrum of new algorithms. But I mean the rest of the machine learning like I guess ecosystem is also improving quite a bit. So things that were impossible even a couple of years ago are possible now, and some products which were impossible a couple of years ago are possible now. So I would say this is probably the number one, like helping the startups to take off the ground, helping them with financing, with mentorship, with product development, with like even with things like data science or machine learning project management, because that's a totally new thing, and we are constantly learning something new in Vinted, like how to manage machine learning projects and how they are different from typical software engineering projects. That's the startups need a lot of help in that, and I believe this is maybe one of the like very, very practical number one thing to tackle. Of course, there are other things like, for example, data openness. That's again, so many people in both academia and the industry would benefit if the data would be more open. I mean, data from the government and other companies. Like it seems like right now we don't have enough of an infrastructure or even the legal base to share the existing data sets because like everybody's like super restricted. I mean, in terms of like interpretations of like laws, like even GDPR, it's very easy to interpret that like, hey, I cannot share like literally anything. While in fact it's not true. You can share quite a bit, and like sharing this data, sharing data sets. It's like the lifeblood of what we do in machine learning. Like new data sets leads to people like, hey, I have this data set now. I need to just flex my machine learning muscles, and I can make something great. So like sharing data sets, I think is like the second most important thing. And to have a top three, the third one would be collaboration between the industry and academia. And I'm very actually curious. I really would love to hear Viorikas and Rizvan response to this question. Like, what do you think would be the best way to have like this collaboration happening between the industry and academia? Because I think that Lithuania is like starting this. I see like a lot of great efforts coming from the academia, but I would love to know what are your take on this. What do you think would work?
Okay, maybe I can start this time. It is sort of a hard question to answer, particularly because for me personally, I haven't been involved that much in sort of setting this kind of things up. So I don't know. But like one thing that is important is for industry to realize that it is useful to invest in sort of open-ended research questions. And I feel that for more traditional companies or for companies that don't have a lot of budget to go around, they tend to be investing in very precise projects where the goal is like, okay, I need a PhD student to do X, Y, and Z that can directly fold into my production line, and it's not really research. And this kind of investments, they actually hurt academia you get sort of the sense that the students end up not doing research. Basically, they end up kind of just working to a certain extent and just applying traditional methods. So I mean, so that's sort of one on the industry side. I think it's sort of the openness of just investing in research and in open research that might not give them any kind of short-term benefits, but would give long-term benefits in sense of developing the community. So there's going to be a lot more experts out there that they could hire later on, or just sort of improving the tools that somehow will end up in their production line. That's, I guess, sort of on the side of the industry. On the side of the academia, I think there's usually like setting up a connection with an industry partner can be relatively complicated and bureaucratic. I don't know sort of how the situation is in Lithuania, but like that ends up being an issue where somehow most of the money end up to the university rather than to the lab or to the people who are supposed to work on that project, and ends up going through a lot of paperwork and a lot of walls that are not useful. So one way that I've seen this being resolved, and this happens in the West as well, is by setting up this kind of institutes, so like Mila and so forth, that basically now have their own legal framework through which they operate, and they kind of avoid to a certain extent the bureaucracy that's involved in like dealing directly with the university. Depending on the university, some universities are also very I mean, I think this is an issue on both sides, but they're like very strict with IP and things like that, which can cause problems or can make this kind of collaboration difficult. So again, as long as both the industry partner and the university agrees on sort of the research to be open and sort of published, and the data to be public, and kind of are not too strict about these things, then things can work. And yeah, in my view, it's just sort of understanding that long term that would benefit a lot more than whatever short term lack of gains they might have, because they gave up some IP, or they've opened up some data that was just theirs, or stuff like that.
So maybe just to add, like from my involvement with the community in Romania. So we've worked on setting up a project like exactly what Răzvan mentioned, like an institute, a local institute that would bring together, like that would represent a bridge between academia, industry, and then the public, like the government and the public authorities, because I think such a bridge is really, really important to have. Because at least in Romania, for example, there are not that many frameworks, or it's not easy if a company wants to pay to have internships, like to host interns from academia. There's not even a platform where they can advertise such positions, or and there is not the communication doesn't happen easily, because also the academia doesn't have in place all the legal frameworks for paying or for accepting funds from industry to cover like internship costs and so on. So I think setting up like this kind of institutes is really crucial. And the way we were seeing this is to have an institute that has a strong research component, where you'd have both fundamental and applied research, then to have a strong educational component, where this institute would oversee the different educational programs in the country, like from undergrad, even high school, because we are working on kind of a program for high school to teach basic concepts of AI. So to start from high school, and then undergrad, masters, and PhD, like to have an integrated view of the education in AI, and this would be possible under the umbrella of such an institute. And then, of course, a crucial component would be this part that connects the academia with the industry, to ensure that whatever research results you have in fundamental research, for example, you can transfer them to industry in a timely manner. So I think such an institute for every country is really very, very useful to have, because in every country, I imagine there are some institutes already existing, but they did not, at least when they were created some years ago, they did not focus on this strong connection with the industry. And I think this is something that is missing, and it's really needed. So yeah, having such institutes, I think, helps a lot in every country. And then we've also trying to propose ideas of professorships sponsored by the industry, because this then can bring can make a stronger collaboration between companies and academia. Because what we also see often is that the salaries in universities, they are not sometimes they are not competitive with what those experts could get in a company. So then there should, like we are saying, that there shouldn't be a competition directly between academia and industry. There should be more collaboration. So this model exists in the West. There are companies that like DeepMind and other companies, they sponsor professorship positions in universities. So I think it would be great if we could start seeing something like this in Eastern Europe as well, because there are many local companies that need talent in AI. And then if they understand that by sponsoring such positions in universities, these professors could grow teams, could grow research teams, and they would provide in the end the talent for that is needed in companies. So yeah, I think these are some ideas, and of course and maybe without, I don't want to make publicity for DeepMind, but for example, we have created now this scholarship program where DeepMind funds some scholarships at master level in different Eastern European countries. And I think it would be great if other companies followed this example, and also to fund such scholarships. Because what we see often in Eastern Europe is that students, besides doing their masters or their PhD, they also have like a full-time job on the side. But then that kind of impacts their performance on the research part. But if we have companies that are willing to cover like good scholarships, then they can focus fully on their research. So yeah, these are some ideas how the industry and universities could collaborate to build a stronger community, basically.
Thank you. That sounds definitely like something that potentially Lithuanian AI community could take on and start to promote these ideas. One thing I wanted to touch on, since it was talked quite a bit, mentioned by quite a few of you, that the question of freedom, of academic freedom, and the research that people do, so kind of, and that also stands at the boundary of collaboration between academia and research, that sometimes academia and research, industry and academia, that industry might have a specific agenda that you need to do that specific work, but then on the other hand, if academics have all the freedom and the incentives for them to be independent, let's say at times when needed from industry, they need to have sufficient incentives. And one of the items in Lithuania, which I understand is quite painful for computer science, is the question of indexing journals. And I was wondering if you faced with such challenges in other countries that you worked with.
So maybe I can start, and potentially Viorica can fill in the gaps. But yeah, definitely that tends to be a problem across many countries. In Romania, we have the same issues, and it can get to as bad as having papers accepted at NeurIPS ICML likely not being recognized for your PhD. So you need to somehow have that paper published in some journal that definitely doesn't have the same quality or the same kind of. And then this is a big problem, and unfortunately, it harms. This is not even on the industry side. I think this just harms academia in general, because it kind of ends up in sort of this closed setting where many times you have these very hyper-local journals where most of the publications come from the same university or from a couple of universities, and it just kind of loses meaning to a certain point. There's been some changes. So for example, and I don't fully know all the details, but I know, for example, this was a situation in Poland as well, but it changed a couple of years back, where they've tried to update sort of how they evaluate these kind of things, and they've managed to include sort of the conferences that matter for machine learning, for the machine learning scenario. So this change can happen. It probably needs a bit of top-down influence as well for it to properly happen, because there's a lot of momentum in the way things are. So it just bottom up can't be fixed. I've also, like, just talking to people, for some of them, like, sometimes you just find workarounds. You do end up wasting a lot more energy because, besides submitting things to iClear or whatever, you need to kind of make a journal out of it afterwards. So you'll spend like an extra couple of months just to kind of make that into a journal. But there's some people who kind of try to make it work, and I think that's kind of a start. But yeah, I guess it is still a big problem. And maybe just to add to that, this used to be a problem in other places as well. So I remember talking to Doina at some point and mentioning that, a few years, and that's a bit more few years back at McGill for her department, they had sort of kind of similar issues where, some things that she thought were very relevant weren't necessarily in her department thought as being the right places to submit. And so it's not like it's a problem that existed everywhere, and it's kind of slowly changing. And I guess it's just a matter of us as a community putting pressure, and then things would probably end up changing.
Yep.
Maybe to add, like, on a different dimension to this, like, of course, there's this problem of conferences not being indexed properly, or journals. But I think there's also a problem with the costs of such venues sometimes. So at least for the in-person events, back 2 years ago, attending a conference, like a top machine learning conference, computer vision, whatever, that requires a lot of money. And in Eastern European countries, I'm not sure what's the situation in Lithuania, the funds available to a PhD student to travel, or even to a faculty to travel to such a conference, they're very, very limited. So even, let's say, even if your university recognizes such venues, you might just not have the funds to attend it. So I think that's a big issue. And I think in this direction, it's also the community, like, from these conferences, there should be some changes. So there are some efforts now to provide scholarships for students to still be able to attend if they don't have the right financial support. But I think there should be more efforts in this direction. And yeah, so I think this is something that we can do, like, from the West, let's say, if we are involved in organizing such conferences, or if we have more influence in this. I think we should pay attention to this and really strive to have more inclusive venues, such that I don't know, some financial aspects don't prevent people from attending them. So yeah, I think that's also important.
Excellent, thank you. Now I want to remind everyone who is watching us that you can still ask questions on Slido, and I will make sure to read them to our panel participants. So please do make sure to ask questions. Now I'd like to get now to Dovydas, and since we kind of talked about the incentives, and you also mentioned about the role that startups and industry can play, and I was wondering if you could comment on the situation in Lithuania. What are currently industry members in Lithuania are doing to kind of proactively work with academia, or kind of create the incentives for the kind of the community to grow, or maybe even apply some pressure to make the necessary changes?
Yeah, so it's again a very good question, and I know that some I guess at this point we are more of an individual level pressure appliers rather than company level pressure appliers. And I know that some people in the association are actively working and trying to fix this academic indexing problem. They are trying to get the conferences recognized, and I think that the collaboration, as you mentioned, the collaboration has always two sides, and I think that the collaboration is kind of happening via people who are actually in both. Like some people are both in academia and in the industry, and they seem to be the bridges which try to to prove to, like, hey, I'm like benefiting from being in the academia, and I'm benefiting from. I'm more valuable to the company because I am in academia, and I'm more valuable to the university because I am working in the industry. And I think that at this level, these I would say really amazing people kind of are proving with their own example that this collaboration is valuable. I would obviously love to see this moving faster and more in a more I guess less individual way, but more systematic way. But even what we have right now, I think is a good indication of a start. I would love for I guess one I guess the industry or the universities to step up and cover the gap and extend the hand and say, hey, let's if we collaborate, we can do a lot of great things. And actually, we are also doing that right now as a company. We have a collaboration with a PhD student. Actually not from Lithuania University, but already we are seeing value in this collaboration. The student is helping us with our A/B testing setup and estimating if we have biases in how we do A/B tests. So this is a great example, how a person from academia can help out a company to actually not help out in a some kind of unclear or unmeasurable way, but in a very, very clear business value adding type of way.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I guess let's check if we have any questions on Slido. No, we don't have any questions on Slido so far, but hopefully we will get some. If not, we will run an auction just like we did yesterday on our last quiz. But one of the questions I'd like to ask, what we see in kind of countries like Lithuania or countries that participate kind of in the Eastern European machine learning community more broadly, that quite a few researchers like yourself, Razvan and Viorica, you work abroad. And what do you think you can do to kind of help younger researchers that are in Lithuania, that are in Romania, in other Eastern European countries, when they're at the start of their PhD and they don't necessarily have the opportunity to go to the, I don't know, NeurIPS, etc., etc.
Okay, so most of us, so many of us who are working in the West but are originally from this region, many of us, we do want to contribute back some way, and we're kind of open to all kinds of things, giving lectures, discussing with students, mentoring them one way or another. I think many times there's not like a particular forum that makes this easy. There's not a particular way of doing this, and you kind of need to find your own way to reach those students that maybe are in need of help and kind of help them. There's also, I feel like the other way around, I feel like students are maybe less likely to kind of reach out, and they should reach out more and sort of try to build those collaborations, because there is sort of this, like all of us feel this sort of need to help out when we can, in the way we can. So I think pragmatically that would be sort of like hands, like if I'm to do something tomorrow, like there's definitely the kind of things that can easily happen, having this kind of events, offering mentoring or guidance to students from time to time, maybe being invited to give a lecture or being invited to have like a discussion with students on a particular topic that you have expertise on. The other thing that I think would be nice to have a lot more of it. I think there's a lot of advantages in sort of allowing people from outside to have like double affiliation to things that are happening in a country. And it might seem like it doesn't bring much, but I think it does. Sort of, even if you have someone who's, I don't know, associated with a research institute in Romania, but that person is never in Romania or never in Lithuania, they completely live somewhere else. I think that can still bring value. So I think this should be something that the community should try to exploit a bit more, and sort of try to create these kind of opportunities and occasions where they can attract, at least in name, to kind of, and then they're sort of just kind of opening the doors, right? That just creates that channel of communication through which, you can find like support and mentoring through that person and so forth. So this is another idea that I think could have quite a bit of value. Sorry, I had a few thoughts in mind, but I feel like I'm blanking out. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that I think the local community could also rely on the diaspora to kind of help them with things like like reviewing. So, for example, I know I've been invited multiple times to review projects for like EU or for like Canada for CFAR and so forth. I haven't been invited that much to review projects that are going to be funded by the Romanian government. So definitely there is you can rely to kind of ask for guidance and to kind of figure out things like this whenever there is a chance, and so that would definitely be one thing to consider from the local community, to try to rely on these people sort of for their expertise, for guidance on where to go. And the last thing I wanted to add is that so this is an observation that Max Welling did at the summer school, which is it is sufficient to attract one person from outside to come back home to make a huge impact on the local community. And the example that Max gave was the example of himself, where he came back to Amsterdam, and he came back for personal reasons, from what I understood from the discussion we had. But like, just getting someone who already kind of made a name for themselves to come back, that could have a huge impact on the local community. And like trying to do that as much as you can from time to time is definitely something the local communities should try to do. And there's always reasons to come back home for personal reasons and stuff like that. So it's worth always trying, even though it seems like a very asymmetric choice, where like, why would someone come back from, I don't know, Stanford to Lithuania? But there are always reasons to do that. So it's worth trying to do that.
Excellent, thank you. I want to remind the people who listen to us that to keep submitting Slido questions. The auction is on, so please submit the questions. And I see, Viorica, you wanted to make a comment as well.
Yeah, so maybe just to add that I think researchers from abroad, they can really get involved into strengthening the local communities. So as you're saying, like in Lithuania, you already have this Lithuanian AI. But like in Romania, we contributed to starting this like an informal community, where we just have like we have a Slack channel, and then we have like a web page where we try to index different research groups that work in machine learning and different projects. And I think we did a decent job there, because like we've worked together with collaborators in this community in Romania, and we created a benchmark for Romanian language tasks, and this benchmark was not now accepted at NeurIPS for the benchmarks track. So I think this is an example of how researchers can really get involved with researchers from their home countries, and really to promote the research and support the community there, which I think it's always a helpful thing to do. And maybe one more thing, as Răzvan mentioned, the idea of reviewing projects to be funded by governments. We are also trying to get involved with giving advice on drafting a strategy for AI in Romania, because like different countries, like the more developed countries, they started like France, UK, US, starting Canada. They drafted AI strategies for the country to have like a joint effort in making progress in AI. And smaller countries in Eastern Europe, they don't really have much strategy, like from the central point, like from a government perspective, to have a strategy to develop the field. But I think like the local communities need to put pressure on the governments to start thinking about that, if they don't do that already. And then people from abroad, they can really help with that, like to give input on how to draft such national strategies.
Thank you. I'm actually so glad that you made an introduction into this topic, and I don't have to introduce that, the conversation of the collaboration with the government about the AI strategy. So actually my next kind of topic and question was to you, Dovydas. is what is currently going on in Lithuania in terms of the AI strategy, in terms of the reviewing the kind of documents. What is the position that the Lithuanian government currently takes, and what is the stance that Lithuanian AI Association currently takes in regards to that?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So thanks, Jeff. I guess it's not like it's pretty hard to like very concretely answer this question, because like as maybe people who work with the government know that people with the government know that the policies tend to change quite a bit. And if we continue to, like, I mean, sometimes it seems that what we start to do, like collaborating with the government, it seems to me that sometimes these good initiatives tend to die off without, you know, any other reason that, hey, just the minister changed and now they are prioritizing some different things. But like we have some governmental organizations who are pretty active and pretty, I guess I would say I'm happy with their current level of competence. And I really hope that like this, the collaborations which we currently have will be extended in the future as well. So we are also, like, as we mentioned in the introductory like welcoming talk today, we are organizing together with actually one of these companies, AI Boost. We are organizing an AI conference in November, and I think that these like educational, promotional, and actually, like, I guess different types of educational programs are what's the most valuable right now.
Thank you. Could you elaborate a bit maybe on AI Boost, and is it kind of some sort of a ministry organization that you're working with? What kind of their stance is? What is their goal in Lithuania? Kind of provide some context.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we have been collaborating with the AI Boost for, I guess, the last couple of years, and this it's like a governmental organization who is dedicated to, like as the name, I guess, implies, boosting the AI in Lithuania. They are owning various different initiatives. One of them is a podcast. They're also doing a lot of promotional work. They tend to help out in like community organized events. We also tend to like, together with actually with the association, we tend to represent like our industry experts with like regarding to, let's say, European Commission proposals regarding the AI. Even I guess like a few months ago, we had a few comments which the AI Boost helped us actually to get across to the European Commission, like regarding the new regulations. So we are like this serves like an excellent bridge to help us out in delivering our like the I guess position of our members, to help our members reach the decision makers regarding the new decisions regarding the artificial intelligence. And I guess this is very appreciated, and I'm very happy that this organization exists. I would be, I guess, even more happy if like the community would be a bit bigger and we would have more representative voice. Because right now we have like we have a lot of experts, but as you know, like the more we have, the more of a like representative voice we can actually have. So like if we don't have I don't know, some like a significant cluster of researchers or industry experts, then their voice is not being heard. So I think it's very important for us to you know, have members in various institutions and companies.
Excellent, thank you. So I do have now a few questions, and we are gonna start answering these. So the first question is, maybe you have some, it's asked by Mantas Lukashevicius, maybe you have some comments about the education before university in different countries. I know that, for example, Romanian schools give a very strong math background to students, while in Lithuania, the standards are probably even sliding back, ...
So maybe I can start and then the others can fill in the gaps. I mean, there's definitely a variation from country to country, and but I would say, like, if we take the example of Romania, like, we traditionally tend to be quite strong in math, but at the same time, the way the curriculum and the way the teaching is being done is in a way that doesn't really help students to think in sort of in a creative way. So, like, take a very specific example. You learn about derivatives. The way you learn about that, you know, you get a bunch of formulas that you need to learn by heart, but you never know exactly what they're useful for, or like, how do you, what is the semantics behind them, right? So you learn a lot of math, but maybe you don't necessarily learn why you learned that math. While I would say in other places might be the other way around, where you kind of focus a little bit more on the understanding, but maybe you don't get to some of these concepts. I mean, there is variation, but I think there are a lot of concepts about machine learning, and because we were talking about this before, that are intuitive and generic enough that will probably apply in any kind of situation. So as Viorica mentioned, we started thinking about, like, making a curriculum for high school, like an optional, you know, kind of curriculum for high school for AI. And the way we've done that is we first started doing it in English, just because that, you know, allows multiple eyes to look at it and kind of reason for it. But then when you try to think, okay, like, I would want to have this being done in Romania, then, you know, besides just translating it, you need to adapt it to the local, you know, exactly what they would know and what the students would not know. So I mean, I guess, like, when we're thinking about, like, pre-university, and if we want to teach concepts of ML, that, you know, those might need to be tuned to the specific context of each country. And that's why we need the local communities to be interested in, and because those communities are the only ones who know what is the exact context within, you know, their country, and like how topics are approached in high school, and what kind of concepts they're taught and what kind of concepts they're not taught, and which aspects of this are important and which are not. But yeah, like in ML, high-level concepts like the difference between causality and correlation and things like this are important, not necessarily because you want to become a machine learning researcher and do research on this, but you're using these tools every day and you sometimes don't understand what they do. So understanding sort of some of these core concepts can help you understand what this tool can do for you and what it cannot do, and sort of reason about that, because if we don't reason about that, you can end up in all kinds of weird situations.
So maybe just to add, like, related to this machine learning course or AI course, so we're not just thinking about it, we are really close to finalizing the materials for it, like translating them in Romanian and so on. And we really think that such a course could actually show students why it's good to learn programming, why it's good to learn maths, why, you know, because it links so many things together, like, and then you see why you should learn about these concepts, because, yeah, exactly as Razvan mentioned, we're learning about these concepts, but in a very abstract way. They are not related to real problems, and yeah, some people are just not motivated to learn about them if they don't see the final utility. And I think if we can come up with very simple projects that would link, I don't know, related to biology, related to chemistry, and that bring in like programming for designing such systems, and then you explain a bit the maths behind it. So you have a really nice integration of different disciplines that could really motivate people to get into this and learn, because they would see the final application of this, that it's not just an abstract thing. So yeah, I'm really hoping that we will make progress in introducing this course in high school, and then we'll see how that goes. We've run already some pilot courses with a few students in Romania and teachers, and we've got good feedback on this. So yeah, once we run a pilot on this in a few high schools, we'll see how that works.
Okay. And Dovydas, maybe you have something to add as well. Because as far as I'm aware, you were quite involved in in data science education in Lithuania. So I'm sure you have something to comment.
Yeah, I'm very passionate actually about educational part, and I don't want to go in like a 45-minute rant here. I don't think it's the right place, but I would like to maybe say one thing which I'm actually very happy with, and which I hope that will like improve everything in the long run. So first of all, like Mantas is saying that Lithuanian standards are probably sliding back. That's I don't have an analysis about the historical results, but the last thing like regarding the math scores I remember is that we are like I think almost exactly at the OECD average. So it's not like, first of all, it's not, we are not starting in a very terrible place. We are not dead last in like the maths. But what I think is very important, and I really hope that like Lithuanian students will get this message, maths is a path to a good job, an interesting job, a job which you can apply your creativity, where you can apply your reasoning skills, where you can apply like pretty much if you like these things. Maybe not like math sometimes can get like a bad name, being very like just very theoretical science, and with not a lot of applications. However, I think this thing is like drastically changing in the like last maybe just last decade, because like we have more and more data science type of professions, like including machine learning researcher, machine learning engineers, data scientists, which require strong understanding of mathematics, but not in a pure mathematics way, but in a very applied mathematics way. And these professions are very well paid. They are very important. They have a lot of value to the companies. You can, like, knowing mathematics will enable you to have a huge impact in the company in which you work, and in addition to that, you'll make like quite a good salary by doing that. So I hope that this trend, this like very concrete reward function, learning math has a very good reward. I think this will like enable students to pay more attention to this subject, and will enable us to have more mathematically inclined students in the future.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I got very inspired to learn math, go back to school. Okay, so we are running towards the end, and we're going to ask one more question from the audience. And the question is to you, Viorica, by Lucas Martak. Lucas is asking, regarding the monetary barrier of VML conferences for academics in some countries that you mentioned. Is there a particular approach you'd prefer seeing being taken in the near future? For example, more Eastern venue locations? Thank you.
So, yeah, I think we've made this argument back after we've organized the first summer school back in 2018, we've written a report where we were advocating exactly for this, more Eastern European locations for such events, because there are so many benefits to it. Like, it's cheaper to organize for the same quality and much better quality. Like, I think the way we organize the school, I don't think many other summer schools in the West organize those kind of events like we did in Romania. And yeah, we didn't get to do it in person in Poland, but like we're able to offer an experience, where people can get to know the local culture, and having dinners in very nice venues, and having panels in traditional, like, historic places, to really get to know the local country and the local culture. And I think you can do those with costs much reduced compared to what you have in the West. And there are really not many barriers to organize events there, because we had support, like administrative support to organize the events. And yeah, the costs are affordable. So yeah, I think definitely we are really advocating for more events in Eastern Europe. And yeah, maybe we don't have like the logistics for events of 10,000 people or 20,000 people like the big machine learning conferences now. But I think there would be value in attracting at least the smaller ones to have them there. So yeah, definitely I am a strong supporter of having more events in Eastern Europe.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So in the interest of time, I think we'll be going towards the end. I see there is a question by Auxas about who should take the first step between industry and academia, as I understand. And I believe we've talked a bit already quite extensively. So I think at this point, we are going to wrap up with the workshop and with the panel discussion. Hopefully you've all enjoyed the panel discussion, and naturally we invite you to continue the conversation on Slack. If there is something that you disagree with that we've said, or something that you strongly agree with what you said, please do voice that. We want to hear your opinion on Slack, on social media, anywhere possible. So please do use all of the resources available. And I guess at this point, we very much thank you everyone who participated. We thank you the speakers, we thank you the organizers, we thank you the partner universities and partner organizations, and we very much thank you also the sponsors who helped us to make this happen. And we very much also thank you the Eastern European machine learning community who co-organized that with us. So huge thanks to you both.